Bon dia, senyors i senyors accionistes. Buenos días, señores y señores accionistas. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. To start, I'd like to thank you for your remote attendance in this AGM, and I welcome you on behalf of the Management Board and on my own behalf. In 2020, we have gone through, and still in 2021, in many parts of the world, an extreme situation in which the pandemic has affected the population's health in an intense and harsh way. From that point of view, I'd like to express, to start, my support and the management board and the support of all of the employees in our group to all of the people affected by COVID-19, the families and friends who have lost beloved ones, people who are suffering from the illness, health staff members, families and friends from all over the world. These circumstances and the restrictions imposed by the authorities and the recommendations given with regards to the mobility of people and holding meetings is what forces us to hold this AGM remotely in order to preserve the general interest and people's health. Before starting, I'd like to thank all of you who are with us remotely and all of the people who have participated remotely in the past to the AGM through the instruments that the company has made available. We hope to be able to see you personally as soon as possible. And now I'm going to give the floor to the Secretary of the Board, Mr. Albert Collado Armengol. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To start, I'd like to inform the shareholders that the board has agreed to require the presence of a notary public in order to take the minutes of the AGM according to what's foreseen in Article 203 of Corporate Law and Article 7 of the AGM Rules and Regulations. This will be carried out by Don Juan Gómez Martínez, notary public of the Official Association of Notary Publics in Catalonia, who will be attending remotely the AGM. Please, Mr. Notary Public, introduce yourself. Good morning. My name is Juan Gómez Martínez, belonging to the Official Notary Public Association of Catalonia, residing in Sabadell. I'm attending remotely, and I'll take the AGM's minutes through the streaming broadcasting electronic platform in the company's website, according to point 7 in Article 40 of the Royal Decree Law 8/2020 from the 17th of March. The AGM will be structured in the following way. To start, we will proceed to complying with the formal requirements to proceed to the valid constitution of the AGM. Next, the Executive Chairman will make a presentation about 2020, the group's evolution and other issues related to the AGM. Thirdly, the Secretary will have the floor to inform about the changes in the board's rules approved since the last AGM according to Article 528 of Corporate Law. After that, we will open up a Q&A session for the shareholders. According to Article 20 of the AGM Rules and Regulations, shareholders who want to intervene in the AGM and to ask for information or clarifications with regards to the issues included in the agenda or to formulate proposals, they can do so from now on till the end of the presentation made by the Executive Chairman under the questions laid in the remote attendance application. When you ask your question, you will have to point out the point, the issue, and include it in the text field for that. If the shareholder wants his or her question to be taken in the minutes, he should ask so expressly in the text. And it's going to be a single question turn. Once we have the full list of the shareholders who want to ask, we will give the turn and reading the question and the identity of the shareholder. Finally, we will proceed to voting the proposals about the issues included in the agenda. We inform you that the remote voting channels with regards to the issues included in the agenda will be closed at the end of the AGM. So let's now proceed to complying with the formal requirements for the valid constitution of Fluidra PLC AGM. The board agreed on 25th March 2021 to summon this AGM to be held on the 6th of May 2021 at 12:30 through remote means according to letter A, point 1, Paragraph 1, Article 3 of Royal Decree Law 34/2020 from the 17th of November about urgent measures to support businesses and the energy sector. The announcement was made public in the Expansion newspaper on the 29th March 2021 and also on the webpage of the company and the Stock Exchange Public Authorities website on the 26th of March 2021. The agenda, agreement proposals and board reports and the full text on members' remuneration policy presented to the AGM have been available uninterruptedly in the company's website since the publication of the original summons. Bearing in mind that the legal summons has been published, as we have said, we assume it has already been read by everybody. And according to the company's bylaws and according to Royal Decree Law 34/2020 adopted due to the COVID-19 crisis, we formally constitute the Fluidra's ordinary AGM composed by its chairman, its secretary, and the members of the management board who are attending the session through remotely. And as chairman and secretary of the board, we have those who will be doing so in the board, i.e. Eloy Planas-Courts and myself, Albert Collado Armengol. The AGM will be validly constituted during the first call when the shareholders present or represented have at least 25% of the subscribed capital with voting rights. The share capital of Fluidra is 190,629,070 euros, and it's divided into 195,629,070 shares of €1 face value, each one of them. All of the shares have been fully subscribed and paid out, and they give all of the holders the same rights. With regards to the AGM, the shareholders who have voted remotely will be taken as present shareholders. I'm going to now give the current list of attendees. Once we have done this, according to the data given to me by the professional people hired by the company, the provisional quorum of attendance is as follows. The moment we have in the AGM, between those who are present and represented, 176 shareholders of 159,335,000 shares, which account for 31.71% of the share capital. And they are present in the shareholder 798,000 shares, equal to 32.6% of the share capital. 4,276,764,000 are shares, and they account for 2.74% of the share capital. And the voting rights are suspended according to what has been foreseen in Article 48 of Corporate Law. In the AGM, we have 156 shareholders who are owners of 152,826,902, which represents 18.12% of the share capital. 78.12% of the share capital. According to what we have in the rules and regulations, we have the quorum demanded for the valid constitution of the AGM in the first call. The final quorum will be given in the minutes, and it will be communicated through our website. And now I'm going to give the floor to the chairman. Having complied with the requirements foreseen in the bylaws and in the AGM rules and regulations, I declare validly constituted this AGM because the legal requirements and the bylaw requirements have been complied with. And now the notary will tell us the legal warnings. According to Articles 101.3 of the Company, I have to ask the following. Would any shareholder want to express reservations or protests about the relative number of provisional shareholders present? If so, please communicate it through the remote means that we have in the broadcasting platform for this AGM. The final quorum will be reflected in the minutes. Let's wait for a few seconds, just in case there are any reservations? It looks like no shareholder wants to express any reservations. I verified that the legal requirements have been met for the constitution of this AGM, so now I'm going to give the floor to the Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Notary Public. Now I'm going to give the floor to Fluidra's Chairman, Mr. Eloy Planescourt. Thank you. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Joan. Well, to start, I'd like to share with you the situation in 2020 and the current situation and our future prospects in Fluidra. 2020 has been an extraordinary year from many different points of view. It has been an extraordinary year due to the impact of the pandemic, which somehow has affected us all, personally and from a work point of view. And it has affected all industries and sectors. It has been a time of great uncertainty and the need to adapt to a situation that has been changing every day. As I've said, it has been an extraordinary year from many different points of view. From a positive point of view, in the case of our industry, it has been an extraordinary year because the industry has shown its resilience, and with the changes in the way we work, we see that nowadays the pool asset is much more valued than a year ago and much more used. If I had to highlight two crucial aspects from last year, the first one would be the team. Our team's capacity to adapt, the capacity the team has shown and the commitment it has shown in front of customers and the company in order to live through a year that has forced us to going from non-activity to more than 120% of activity. It has been truly key for attaining last year's goals. And I'd like to take advantage of the fact that I have the floor to thank our team for their involvement and for the good work they did during the last year's campaign. Okay, the first point is the team, and the second is the results. It has been a complicated year, 2020, with a lot of adaptation, but it has also been a record year from the point of view of our results. You can see the results which we shared with you in February. Sales growth of almost 9%, and if we adjusted it to currency, above 11%, and margin expansion thanks to a very accurate and extraordinary in execution by the team of both companies' merger, which has gone from 18.6 to 19%. We have this 320 million EBITDA, which you can see on screen, going from 268 to 320. And the extraordinary expenses due to the merger were reduced drastically, and the net profit reported has grown up to 100 million, and the net cash profit has increased by more than 50%. And the most important point, the company last year made the debt leverage to be below 2 times EBITDA, which was the leverage level we wanted in our merger project, and it was a goal we had shared with you. And we wanted to reduce this debt, and after the merger, to take the company's debt, we wanted to go from 2 in 2022, and 2 years before that, we have attained this goal. And this is a very good piece of news for the company because it allows it to keep on investing in acquisitions. And in fact, last year, we already saw, during the last part of the year, 3 acquisitions. And for the shareholder, it's a very good piece of news too, because we ourselves defined our own restrictions in our dividend policy until we made sure that the company was deleveraged at a fast pace to go back to this 2 times level. So now, allow me to focus now on our ESG plan, our ESG blueprint plan. For Fluidra, it's important not only what we do and what we attain, what we achieve, but how we go about it, how we do it. In fact, I have been personally sharing with you during the last AGMs our commitment with the natural environment and with society at large. In fact, we're very happy with the work we have carried out this past year. It has been an intense year in which we have worked, and we have ended with this new strategic ESG blueprint plan. If I had to use one term to sum up this plan, is commitment. The board and the executive team's commitment. It has been a plan worked top-down in order to develop a consistent plan. And this is also reflected in the figures we see in the previous page and in the company's mission and vision, where we have wanted to include these elements. And this commitment is also reflected in the fact that today Fluidra's executive members has part of their salary related to the evolution in all ESG fields. Beyond the management board's commitment and the management team's commitment, we are also committed in showing our progress, and to do so in a neutral way, so that people can actually see where we are and where we want to go. And that's why we made the decision to take the company to be analyzed under ratings, CDP, Standard & Poor's, which assure that this transparency and where we have points for improvement, where they are, so that you follow us up. And then a clear commitment with the natural environment, society, and good governance. In this page, you can see a summary of these commitments. In fact, we have gone through the exercise, and both the board and the management team, they wanted to carry out a synthesis or a summary exercise to have just 5 or 6 goals that allow us to show our commitment externally, and so that they also become the drivers to move the company in the right direction. You can see here our environmental commitment in terms of carbon neutrality with the use of natural-friendly products, our commitment with gender equality with our employees, our social action, which reaches the international realm worldwide, and also our customer satisfaction goal. You have all of the information about this plan on our website, so that you can actually visit us and see not only these long-term goals, but also the short-term goals and the basis for our plan. As I've said, to us, it's not only important what we do, but also how we do it, and to give us vision of sustainability medium term to the things we do. And we believe this really brings forth an extraordinary value. Every year, I also focus on the issues worked out at the board and in the different board committees. In fact, this has been a year that, together with the merger year, the board has been very much involved. The pandemic, especially during the hardest times, made the board to be fully involved on a weekly basis. Then it was not until after the summer when we went back to a normal pace. I'd like to thank publicly all of the board members, and I see them all here. Some of them are not muted, and I am listening to them. I'd like to thank them all for their involvement, for their full engagement, and for their full dedication in such a difficult and complex year, such a demanding year. We have always worked with transparency and commitment for our shareholders, both short-term, with regards to COVID-19, with regards to making sure that the group is fully integrated, that both companies are fully merged, and also from a structural point of view, with regards to the compliance with the policies or the longer-term issues like ESG and the executive management team succession plans. So I'd like to highlight, just as I've highlighted the internal companies team, which have been key in the evolution of these past few years. I'd like to point out as well that today we have a management board that works as a team, a high-performance team. Okay, making headway. If we now analyzed the company's evolution. Sorry, 1 second. Could you mute the board, please, because we're listening to them, and it's an interference. Thank you. Thank you for muting their microphones. Okay, what I was saying is, to be honest, I mean, at the end of the day, what's most important is to work for the fundamentals medium and long term. And ends up being reflected in the share value. And both last year and what we have been through this year, the evolution of the company's value has been truly spectacular. But beyond the fundamentals, I have also been sharing with you the fact that it's important to give visibility to the company and to reach the world of investors and analysts with the maximum efficiency possible. This year we have kept on working with great effort in order to bring knowledge about the company to the investing world. In fact, we have increased our one-to-ones more than 40%, these interactions with investors and analysts. And maybe an element that to me is the most important one is that based on this constant action, constant link with the market and the liquidity that Fluidra has experienced with the placement and the work to value the company in the market and the investing sector, I mean, the company has been able to be accepted in the Spanish IBEX 35. And this has also implied a revaluing in terms of liquidity. We have multiplied by 10 the company's liquidity, and we have given a greater visibility and a greater reach to the investment world. Another significant point for shareholders, and you know that we have this vision. At the end of the day, the shareholder somehow it needs to return part of the value generated year after year through the dividend. The reality is that these good results that we have harvested these past few years, and the fact that the company has been able to be deleveraged below 2.5 times EBITDA, it has allowed us to go back to our dividend policy. Last year, we paid a dividend, and it has placed us in a situation that, together with a great cash generation by the company, we have needed to redefine our dividend policy. This extraordinary cash generation implies that the company can keep on investing in its production capacities and its needs as a company, its daily needs. The company is able to invest and to keep on consolidating the market, and at the same time, it's able to commit itself to pay 50% of its cash net income every year as a dividend. So from that point of view, today we have a proposal for the dividend for the results, for the gains in 2020 according to this policy, which implies doubling, multiplying by 2 last year's dividend, which was 0.40 euros in 2 parts. One will be paid on the 6th of July this year, and the one will be paid on the 3rd of November, which, as I've told you, it will be taken to the approval by the AGM. And, well, the good news are not over yet. In fact, just a couple of hours ago, we have presented the results for the first quarter, and this trend and this change, this step change in our industry, thanks to these background trends in which the pool has become the central point in our lives, outdoors. Well, these results, as I've said, have accelerated these trends. And you can see the extraordinary results. We had never seen a quarter like this one. Xavier and Bruce mentioned it this morning. These are just stellar, extraordinary growth, 61% sales growth, more than 167% of EBITDA margin, 80 million more EBITDA compared to the first quarter 2020, and a net profit of almost 70 million, and the break-even, which is very much above what the company normally has during the first quarter. We are fully convinced that this year will be a record year once again. In fact, we have changed again our market guidance. For the whole year, we have shared with the market today, the company will grow at least between 25 and 30% in terms of sales, and we will extend our margins from 21.6, which I mentioned a second ago, to 23.7 or 24.7, between 2 and 3 base points in terms of expansion, 2 or 3 percentage points for our margin for 2021, which will imply a growth in our net cash profit between 50 and 60%. Growth that will have an organic part and an inorganic part. Our M&A action continues. We have already had 3 acquisitions, one that's medium-sized and 2 reinforcement companies, one in the USA and another one in the European market. Now, with all of these results, and based on these results, during the last 12 months, we take the last 3 from last year and this quarter, when we compare ourselves with the strategic plan which we shared with the market for 2022, we have gone beyond all of our goals and more than 1 year ahead. So I believe that this is truly the basis. It's due to the excellent implementation made by the team, an implementation that we knew had to bring forth a lot of value. But like any other merger, it implies risk. I read recently that more than 77% of mergers do not reach their goals after 3 years. And we have been able to achieve this 2 years ahead. We have really built up this global company, this worldwide leading company in our industry. And it's worthwhile to highlight it. Well, you'll tell me, well, we are already on the IBEX 35. You have reached your goals. This is working well. Things are going well. And now what? Well, I was saying in the Capital Markets Day that this is just the beginning. For the very first time in history, and also for the first time in the history of our industry, and of course in the history of our company, for the very first time we have this global leader that's ready, up and ready, with the best characteristics of a global company and the best features of a family-owned company in order to build up value step by step. As I've told you, this is just the beginning. It is the first time this exists, and now we have the opportunity in a market that, as I've said beforehand, has some excellent dynamics to bring forth all of this strength and power from our company to keep on gaining market share. To us, it's very clear what our regional strategy is. It's very clear, too, what our investment strategies in innovation and connectivity in a company that has and will keep on having the capacity to increase its margins beyond this step change we have seen in 2020 with growth rates that are 10 to 11% and what we have just said for 2021 between 25 and 30%. When we truly see this step change that will be consolidated, we will have average growth rates above 5 or 6%. Our EBITDA margins will be half a percentage point year after year, which means a growth of our net cash profit of more than 15%, which, of course, with our dividend policy, will also imply an increase of dividends year after year. So to sum up, this is just the beginning. We have this company that I've just said, which has been built up step by step, up and ready to keep on navigating this enormous cruise ship, which will be navigating in this ocean, this swimming pool filled with opportunities, with a crew, a team that's just extraordinary, ready, that they have known how to execute, and they have an enormous implementation capacity. We have clear regional strategies. We know where we need to invest. We also have inorganic growth opportunities, and we have bet on the integration capability. With this medium and long-term vision that our plan includes, our boat is navigating the best oceans with the best crew, the best prospects for the future. And we promise you what I always say, we will keep on working with the same attitude that characterizes us. We're enthusiastic, creative, and energetic, honest, based on honesty, consistency, and respect. Thank you very much.
Señor Presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now, in agreement of Article 528 of the Corporations Law, we proceed to inform the shareholders about the amendments to the regulation of the Board of Directors since the last GSM. As of July the 30th, 2020, the Board of Administration agreed with prior favorable report from the Appointments and Remunerations Committee to amend Section 15.5 of the regulation of the Board of Directors with a new consolidated text in order to reinforce the functions or the roles of the lead director. Equally, as of March the 25th, 2021, the Board, with a prior favorable report by the Appointments and Remunerations Committee and the Audit Committee, approved to amend the regulation of the Board of Directors in order to adapt the regulation of the Board of Directors to the novelties of the Good Governance Code of Corporations for listed companies approved by the CNMV. As a result of all of that, the Board of Directors approved to amend Article 11 in order to refer to the relevant committee's regulations all the powers granted to the Audit Committee and the Appointments and Remunerations Committee, and to adapt Article 12 regarding the delegate bodies of the Board to Recommendation 37 of the Code of Good Governance, and to approve the new regulations of the Audit and Appointments and Remunerations Committee, and to modify Articles 13 and 14 regarding the makeup, the competences, and the functioning of the Audit and the Appointments and Remunerations Committee, moving the regulation containing said articles to the new regulations. And it's worth highlighting that the regulation of the Appointments and Remunerations Committee was also adapted to the Code of Good Governance to eliminate in Article 15 the possibility to summon the sessions through fax or telegram, because this is no longer in use because of the new technologies, and to update in Article 16 the development of the meetings, the concept of high management, senior management, defining as such the members that are part of the steering committee at all times. Seeks to modify Article 21 in order to adapt the regulation of the causes for resignment for the members of the Board of Directors in agreement with recommendations of the Code of Good Governance and the new drafting of Recommendations 22 and 24. Modify the Articles 34 and 37 regarding the website of the corporation and the relationships with the market in order to adapt them to the new drafting of Articles 226, 227 of the Royal Decree 4/2015 of October 23rd, whereby the combined text of the law on stock exchange is approved, and then to adapt Article 38 regarding the relationships to the auditors in order to be in agreement with the recommendations of the Code of Good Governance and recommendation number 8. The combined text and the new text of the regulation for the Board of Directors and the Audit Committee and the Appointments and Remunerations Committee regulations is available on the website of the corporation. Now we're going to move on to open the floor for the questions and answers, and we're going to read the questions issued by the shareholders that requested participation through this platform. We're going to open the floor to see if some shareholders would like to pose a question or intervene.
No ha solicitado.
No floor has been requested, therefore we continue with the meeting. Now we're going to read the voting of the proposal for agreement included in the agenda. The voting is going to take place corresponding to the bylaws and the applicable legislation by virtue of Article 24. We're going to consider as votes in favor the ones corresponding to all the concurrent shareholders in the meeting, present or represented. First, the votes corresponding to the shares whose holders or representatives or delegates state that they vote against, cast a blank vote, or abstain through the communication or expression of their vote or abstention for it to be recorded in the minutes. And secondly, the votes corresponding to holders or delegates or proxies who have abandoned the meeting prior to the voting and have left, indicating that they're abandoning or leaving the meeting. And we're going to record all of that in the minutes. If some shareholders would like to record in the minutes the direction of the vote regarding some of the resolutions, they can do so by using the telematic means provided for the meeting. And it's also going to be available for the shareholders in the website, the complete list of the resolutions adopted, reflecting the result of the voting and the direction of the vote. The proposals for agreement formulated by the Board of Directors on the points of the agenda and the corresponding reports have been available on the corporate website since the date of the summons. Therefore, they are hereby considered to be read by everyone. As a reminder, I would like to read the summary of the content of the proposals for resolution subject to the voting of this general shareholders meeting. First, subject to the approval, the yearly financial statements and the management report of the company and the consolidated holding of companies closed as of December 31st, 2020. Secondly, it is subject for the approval, the consolidated non-financial statements of Fluidra corresponding to the year closed as of December 31st, 2020. And then thirdly, we have the proposed distribution of last year's results, which goes as follows. The dividend payout, which was paid wholly as of October 27, which amounted to 0.21 gross euros per share, amounting to 40,752,061.77 euros, and voluntary reserves in the amount of 99,233,984.73 euros. Fourthly, we submit to the approval the management by the Board of Directors in 2020. Fifthly, we subject to the approval the dividend distribution from the reserves in the amount of 0.40 gross euros per company share, with a maximum total dividend payout of 78,251,628 euros if the distribution is performed in accordance to the total shares of the society, to be distributed in two payments with the same amount in July and November this year. And it is subject to the approval in a separate manner the re-election of Mr. Eloy Planas Corts, Bernardo Corbera Serra and Oscar Serra Dufo as members to the Board of Directors. 7. It is subject to the approval by this GSM in two blocks the amendments of the bylaws of the society. On the one hand, the creation of Article 28 bis, amending Articles 29, 31, and 33 in order to adapt the regime for attendance, representation, and voting of the general shareholders meeting through electronic or telematic means, and then to amend Article 45 to adapt the regulation of the delegate bodies of the Board of Directors as a result of the approval by the Board of Directors of the regulation for the Audit Committee and the Appointments and Remuneration Committee. It is noted that each article of the bylaws is voted separately by virtue of Article 197 bis of the Corporate Law. 8. It is subject to the approval in two blocks. On the one hand, the amendment of the bylaws, the creation of Article 10 bis and amendment of Article 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 19, 23 in order to adapt and include the regime for attendance, representation and voting at the general shareholders meeting through electronic and telematic means of communication, and the amendment of Article 27 with the purpose of regulating the dissemination of access to agreements in relation to insider information or other kind of relevant information, to the amendments introduced regarding dissemination. All of this is going to take place in a separate voting. And then the remunerations policy for the board directors or board members for years 2022 23 and 24. And then the yearly report on directors' remunerations. And lastly, 11, we subject to the approval the formal agreement for the delegation of powers and the granting of powers in order to formalize, interpret, complement, develop, and execute the agreements adopted. All of these proposals are subject to the voting and must abide by the legal majority by virtue of Article 25 of the Regulation of the Board of Directors in accordance with the corporate law, and point 7172 will be approved by simple majority with more votes cast in favor than against. Notwithstanding, the bylaws modifications proposed under point 7172 of the agenda will have to be approved by absolute majority. Catering to the data provided by the corporation, I communicate the shareholders that all the necessary votes have been cast in order for all the points in the agenda to be approved by sufficient majority. And the chairman has the faculty to declare the resolutions as approved when there is sufficient majority. Without prejudice to recording in the minutes, the vote against or abstentions where appropriate, we consider hereby that the agreements proposed by the Board of Directors have been read and that they have been approved by the present General Shareholders meeting. I give the floor to Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Albert. So we hereby approve all the resolutions, all the agreements by sufficient majority. Let me remind you that the agreements approved and the results of the voting are going to be fully publicized on the website of the company within the next 5 days after the holding of the General Shareholders meeting. And the minutes is going to be considered as the minutes of the General Shareholders meeting, and it will not be necessary to proceed to the reading or approval thereof. Let me conclude by thanking you once more for your attendance and participation today, and to wish you the best in these difficult times we're going through. We hope to see you very soon in person once again. And without further ado, we hereby conclude the General Shareholders meeting of Fluidra, and we hereby adjourn this session. I wish you all a good day.